Hey folks, we're going to make another beer today, but we're going to add a step we've never done before in any of my videos. So I've got everything laid out here on the counter and we're going to talk about it. So we're starting with one of the most important elements, and that's water. You need high quality water, so we're using the Ozarka spring water. That's pretty much the only thing I brew with. Then we've got for our base, if you guys can see that, that is wheat extract, and that's 4 pounds of wheat extract. To supplement that, we've got a little bit of honey that's left over. That's probably 3 or 4 pounds of honey we're going to throw in there to get our specific gravity up. And we're going to, for the first time, I've actually never done this before, but this is a muslin bag filled with 4 ounces of milled wheat and 4 ounces of crystal tin, and we're going to do a hops boil. These are hops pellets. The pellets don't have as much fragrance. Let me zoom in so you guys can see that. They don't have quite, it's not going to focus, the fragrance that that we're looking for, so we're just going to use these for a little bitterness and boil them for about 20 minutes. And then we've got leaf hops with a very low acidity. You can see it's a 3.8 acidity. We're going to use that for our dry hopping. And for the yeast today, I couldn't get my normal yeast. So since we're making a Hefeweizen, this was the closest thing they recommended at the brew shop. It's the White Labs Pitchable WLP 380. So we've already got some of our water on the boil, and I'm going to step back, and my wife's actually going to put this stuff together. Hey. Okay, so let's start out with, we've already sanitized everything, just to prove it. Not that you can smell it, but that's the horrible sanitizer back there. So we've already got everything. Let's get the wheat extract. Let's go ahead and put that in the bucket, or in the kettle. Yeah. It's already going a little bit. Man, that smells really good. Here, dunk that in here. There you go. Get as much of that as possible. This is the first time I've actually had Andrea mixing up beer, so she's getting a handle on the process now too. Yeah, get as much of that out of there as you can with the spatula, and then we'll use some hot water to get the rest out. Okay, that's good. Let me hold that. I'm going to clean off just the little hangings real quick. Okay, now set the bucket down on the counter, and then pour some over there. And then pour some of the hot water into the bucket, and that's going to melt some of the extract so we can get the rest of it out of there. And just swirl it around. Or you can use the spatula, but I usually swirl it.
Spatula tends to work easier.
That's good enough for government work. Throw that in there. And then I want to throw the rest of the honey in there. And then once we get the honey in, we're going to wait for the temperature to get up to about 160. And then we're going to steep our grain bag and essentially make tea with our grain bag, and then we'll do the boil. You don't have to get all that stuff out of there, don't worry about it. I'm just going to put more honey in it in a minute from the big bucket. That's good. Oh, watch it. Okay, give it a good stir to get as much of that dissolved in there as we can. Okay, and I want to add a little bit more water. The more water we have in there, the more we can dissolve into the liquid. So I'm actually going to give Andrea the phone real quick, and I'm going to pour some water in, probably about to that top rivet. Oop. There we go. Okay, now we're going to cover and cook on medium to medium high, just long enough to get it up to 160. I'm going to check the temperature about every 10 minutes, and once it's up to 160, I'll turn the camera back on. Okay, here we are back. We just hit 160, and you'll notice because we put the honey in there, we've got some protein building up on the top in the form of foam. So we're going to scoop that off. Go ahead. You're going to want to get that cut pretty close to that. Try to leave as much of the liquid as you can and just grab the majority of that foam, just like that. You don't have to do this, but it helps if in clarification. If you heat up the honey, it's going to separate its impurities, and they're going to float up to the top anytime you heat up the honey, especially this hot. So we're just doing ourselves a favor by pulling this stuff off while we can. If we hadn't put the honey in here, it probably wouldn't have foamed up like that, but I wanted the honey, so. Okay, that's good. It's not an exact science. We're just a little insurance. Alright, so we're already at 160, so go ahead and turn the heat off completely. And then we're going to grab the muslin bag with our grains. Yep. No, don't knock it off. We want that in there. That's the good stuff.
The outside stuff?
Yeah, yes. Okay, so that's going to steep in there. We have the, go ahead and just lay the sock off to the side so we can pull it out. We're going to let this steep in there just like tea for probably about an hour. It doesn't really matter how long you let it steep in there. And then we'll start our boil. So, oh, hold up. There's some stuff you can see right here in the bag. That's all part of the milled grains we used. So I don't want that to go to waste. I'm going to actually put that in there. Just from handling that muslin bag, we lost some of it. So I just wanted to make sure we didn't waste it. Okay, so we turn the heat off, and we're going to steep this for about an hour, and then we're going to come back and do a 20-minute boil. Okay, here we are back, and this just reached a boil. You can see we pulled the steeping bag out, and we're about to reuse that as our hops boiling bag here in just a minute. So what we're going to do is set up the hops. Here's my pocket knife. Cut the bag just below the knot they put in it. There we go. Watch it. Okay, now you want to get the leftover bag because that's going to be our new bag. Okay, get that. And then we're going to put an ounce of this Hallertau hops in pellet form in there, and we're going to do a 20-minute boil with that because the low acid hops, and it's a very short boil, just because we're not big fans of the bitter beer. Well, I am. The wife likes it, but
Okay, you like
I'm not a big fan of the bitter beer stuff. And just actually pour some of that out in my hand just so folks can see that. It looks like little rabbit pellets to me, like rabbit food, but it's compressed hops. The aroma on this stuff is really not what I would want it to be, which is why when we get to the aroma part of the process, we're going to use the leaf hops that are over here. So this boiling the hops for this recipe is simply at this point to extract the bitter elements to offset the sweet from the grain and the honey. Just tie it off. There we go. Okay. And throw that in there and put the lid on, and as soon as the lid is on, the heat will pick back up and it will start to boil again, and we're going to start a 20-minute timer. Then we're going to put everything together with the rest of the water, and we are good to go. Okay, so we're back. We're through our 20-minute boil, and we're getting the primary fermenter set up. We're going to go ahead and set that on the floor. Everything's already been rinsed and sanitized. We did all that before we even started. Okay. First thing I want to do is, so that we don't put the bucket into thermal shock, is put a little of the cold, either room temperature water in. So I'm going to let her grab the phone, and I'm just going to put a couple of gallons in. Take the boil. There's our pellet hops. See how they swell up? Put that over there. That's all hot. And I'm going to carefully, because this is hot, pour this into our bucket. Wow, that smells amazing.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. Okay. The rest of our 5 gallons. I've got the White Labs pitchable yeast. Dry yeast is fine. It's just a Hefeweizen ale yeast WLP380. Whew, fingers are sticky. Shook it up. Just gonna throw it in. And we're gonna seal it. Throw that. That's fine. It's just water. Throw that in there. And we are going to check it in the morning. Okay, here we are the next morning, and wanted to show you guys. Don't know if you can see it on camera, but this is definitely bowed up. So we have internal pressure going on right there, and I don't know if it's going to do it now because I just laid my hand on top of it, but we do definitely have some bubbling. So that tells us that our yeast survived. It was a viable batch, and everything seems to be going well. I'm gonna Wait for that to bubble at least once so you guys can see it. I really like these barrel fermentation locks. There we go. Better than, well, two in a row. Better than the S-shaped fermentation locks, because I can see those barrels from across the room, and for some reason I have a hard time seeing the S shapes from across the room. So, and the barrels are much easier to clean if, you know, things get nasty. So the other thing we're going to do, we didn't do this last night, partially because I forgot, and partially because I knew our temperature was going to be off. But our temperature's had time to equalize with the outside air now, so it should be between 70 and 71 where we keep the apartment most of the time. So what we're going to do is use our spigot here to draw off a sample in our little collection jar so we can get a specific gravity reading. And there's a little bit of water in there. Can you dump that out? And then carefully just rotate that and get that about 3/4 of the way full. There we go. Perfect. Okay, now grab the hydrometer. I'm going to move this out of the way. And go ahead and drop it in. It's been going overnight, but it hasn't had enough time. The fermentation's really not rolling yet, so it hasn't had enough time to really do much. Really?
So we can set it at 30.
I am very surprised it is that low, given the amount of sugar we put in that thing. So yeah, it's sitting right at 1.03, which I really want that closer to 4 or 5. So what I'm probably going to do is drop some more sugar into this batch. Wow, I didn't want to pop the lid on that. Okay, here we are again. We've got the lid off our primary fermenter because we're going to add some more honey to it to get the sugar level up, and I wanted to show you guys the processor as we do it. This is my bulk honey container. I buy these for about 95 bucks from a local honey supplier, Rudy's Honey, and it's just wildflower honey. She listed as light amber, but it's a little bit darker than that. So we're going to dump about 3/4 of that into our primary fermenter and stir it up, give it a few minutes to get everything dissolved in solution, and then we'll take another sugar reading. So I've already sterilized or sanitized my hand, so I'm simply going to lift up our hops bag and get it out of the way, and Andrea is going to dump some honey in. That's good. Watch it. Yep. Okay. We have a sanitized spatula we're going to stir it up with, just to try to help it get in solution. You're going to have to stir it more than that. Really get that rolling so the water itself is, or the wort itself is, keep it going in one direction so that it'll continue to stir even after you stop. It's going to take some serious agitation to get that stuff into suspension. Okay, you're good. And, okay, let me have the lid, darling. And lock that lid back down on there. Okay, now we're going to give this a few minutes to let the honey continue to dissolve, and then we're going to take another sugar reading and see where we're at. Okay, we just pulled another sample out of our batch, and don't know if you're going to be able to see it on camera there. No, it looks a little blurry, but we are up to 1.0 or 1.08. Overshot a little bit. I was going more for the 5 to 6 range, but that gives us quite a bit of potential alcohol, so we're good to go.